After any major developer launches a game, the question becomes, what is next for them? People are always thinking about the next thing, even if a game from that developer only launched recently, and Kojima Productions is no different. Death Stranding is out. All the feedback is already in. People loved it or people hated it, some people in between. But already, everyone's wondering, what is Kojima going to do next? And it looks like we already have some hints based on some of the statements Kojima provided recently. It is safe to say Kojima is not going to just stop after Death Stranding. He's going to keep pursuing creative ventures of his, whatever it is he has in store for us next. As for what that may be, well, there are a couple hints that can be found on Kojima's Twitter page, as well as recent interviews that he did. So let's start by looking at this article from news outlet Vulture. It talks a lot about the behind-the-scenes ideas behind Death Stranding. Kojima relays what he tried to do with this game and what his inspirations were and the process of getting this game completed. But then towards the end, there is some talk about what's next, a potential sequel even, and according to news outlet Vulture, quote, Kojima discusses working with the actor again, referring to Norman Reedus, and also, quote, perhaps on a Death Stranding sequel, though if he were to create such a thing, he would start from zero. So it looks like a Death Stranding 2 is not an impossibility after all. The way Death Stranding 1 ended, I felt this could be its own standalone thing if Kojima really wanted it to be, and it'd be fine. But there's also a potential for other entries in the Death Stranding series, and it looks like Kojima is considering it at the very least. This is not confirmation. It says right here, if such a thing were to be created. And so we don't know whether a Death Stranding 2 is really even happening, if Kojima will find these new ideas to just really take the first game and bring it up to a whole new level. But he does say he would start from zero, and I don't know how that can be interpreted per se. I get the sense that Kojima would use the Decima game engine because he's already very familiar with it. He would probably, just take what's already there and build upon that. But I guess by start from zero, I guess maybe he's referring to the game's concept. Maybe it isn't just going to be Death Stranding 1, but with a few things added on top, it would be a completely new game. And if there is one thing Kojima has been good at is ensuring that every game that he releases doesn't just feel like a rehash. He doesn't do the typical annual release where the sequel only feels like a half a step up. Every new game Kojima makes feels very different. Even among the Metal Gear series titles, Metal Gear Solid feels different from Metal Gear Solid 2, which feels different from 3 and 4 and 5. All of them feel distinct in their own way, even though they have the core foundation of that stealth action game with obviously a storyline that is continuous, that spans an entire saga. So I think Kojima can take Death Stranding and really take it up a notch, like he did from one Metal Gear game to another. Each one really was an evolution of the series, and maybe Kojima can achieve something similar should he decide to make a Death Stranding 2. But this isn't confirmation, keep that in mind. We don't know anything about Kojima's next venture quite yet. And then on top of hints of a potential sequel, a possibility of this happening, there is this tweet that Kojima posted back in November 22nd, 2019. So this reads, as to make the scariest horror game, I'll watch the scary movies in order to awaken my horror soul. The Eye is the Thai horror movie I rent when making PT, but was too scary to finish watching. The package is scary, so I rented the disc only. Will I be able to finish watching? So it is interesting that he actually mentions PT and some of his inspirations behind that game. And the fact that he's actually prepping himself to make horror games by watching horror movies, maybe this is something Kojima's thinking of exploring with his future ventures. Now, whether this is in any way tied to Death Stranding 2 remains to be seen. I mean, the first Death Stranding game has horror elements, but I wouldn't call it a horror game. But I would certainly love to see Kojima explore the horror genre because he did such an amazing job with PT. That's this playable teaser that is universally heralded as one of the best things to come out of the horror genre. Despite it being so short and such a teaser, it was still such a cool concept, and given how crazy Kojima's ideas are and these crazy visuals that he can evoke, I think horror is really well suited for Hideo Kojima. I think if he were to pursue a horror game, it would really be something unique and special. So I, for one, would love to see a Hideo Kojima horror game, and I think a lot of people can say the same there. You know, take what he learned from PT and then create a full-fledged game. Don't call it Silent Hills, call it something else, but man, I think, Hideo Kojima, he's inspired by Junji Ito, who creates some of the most bizarre and creepiest horror imageries in the manga world. And so for Kojima to take his own crazy sensibilities and combine it with all these inspirations and create a horror game, it would be a hoot, if I do say so myself. So I hope this is something that Kojima eventually pursues. Whether that's in the form of Death Stranding 2 or another franchise, hard to say. I get the sense that with Death Stranding, he would actually try to evolve this concept of the strand system, that social aspect of Death Stranding. I get the sense that he would evolve that further. Maybe add new structures to build beyond the zip line and just really flesh out this concept even more. I don't get the sense that if he were to make a horror game, it would be Death Stranding. I think he would have to make an entire new game for that endeavor. And the thing is, Kojima clearly wants to make a horror game. He's explored this genre with Metal Gear Solid 5 with the hospital scene, clearly inspired by horror, and then Death Stranding does have horror elements like with the BTs and some of the creature designs, just that creepy Lovecraftian feel to them. So, yeah, if Kojima wants to make the scariest horror game, I think everyone would be down for that. I think he should try it out at least and see where that goes. I think it'd be amazing. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about is Kojima Productions possibly making a movie down the line. And this is something that was conveyed by Kojima himself during this BBC feature in which they went behind the scenes during the days leading up to Death Stranding's launch and got some behind the scenes footage and did like a mini documentary. And there Kojima did in fact talk about possibly making a movie. Now, Kojima Productions is still an independent studio that's medium-sized. I don't know how much they can spread themselves, and I don't know if working on multiple projects at a time would spread them too thin. I don't know what the sequence of events would be for Kojima Productions in terms of the projects that they want to work in. Is it movie first, game later, or are they going to work on another game first and then maybe pursue a movie? Are they going to try two projects at the same time? Are they going to go Death Stranding 2? Are they going to go horror? You know, I guess the world's just sort of open for them at this point. And it'll be interesting to see what Kojima pursues next. And for my part, if I had to choose between one of these, I'm fresh off the boat with Death Stranding. I feel like I don't need a sequel until a couple years at least. I had a blast with that game, so I can wait for a Death Stranding 2, and I'd love to see Kojima make a horror game, fully realize some of the visions he had for Silent Hills, and really flesh out sort of the horror sensibilities that he managed to procure by experimenting with PT. This, I think, would really make people look forward to his next game. At the same time, a Kojima Productions movie could be very interesting, and I get the sense that for a movie, Kojima Productions would have to outsource a bit. They couldn't just do it in-house. They'd have to find a team, and then Kojima would probably be like writer and maybe director. He probably wants to direct a movie, and so it should be interesting to see what kind of story he comes up with. I get the sense that he's not going to try to do like a video game adaptation. I get the sense that he's the kind of guy who would want to take advantage of the medium that he's engaging in rather than try to make a video game adaptation to a movie or a film adaptation into a video game. So that's just my prediction on that. But you can see the level of excitement based on the responses Kojima got from this tweet alone. People talking about how the reminder of PT is too painful given the potential that it had. People saying, you're making another horror game, please. Getting a lot of likes. Another individual, I sure hope so. That's getting quite a good amount of likes. You hinting at a horror game, getting a lot of likes, hopefully. So on and so forth. A lot of people are keeping their fingers crossed that this is something Kojima is considering seriously, and that maybe it could be his next venture. It's a genre that I think Kojima would thrive in. But anyway, this is one man's take on all of the things Kojima's been saying about what he wants to do next since Death Stranding's launch. Let me know in the comments below what you would want out of Kojima. Would you want to see a Death Stranding 2? Would you want to see a horror game? Or would you want to see a movie? And in what order would you arrange those in? Drop a comment below, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.